Hello everyone. We're just going to do a quick little respiratory review. I'm going to show you exactly how I organized my notes and just what helped me understand some of these topics right here. Like always, breaking down stuff into tables is super easy, but then turning them into something that's a little bit more easy to digest and readable helps better along in like the long run. Instead of just looking at the big wall of text, images are very important, especially if you're more of a visual learner than a textual learner. Starting off here with some basic vocab words. I initially looked for an image here that talks about like the respiratory mechanisms, and then just had a key table on the side that I basically could like look back onto and just get the information. So I have the intrapulmonary pressure, intrapleural pressure, parietal pressure, atmospheric or barometric pressure, Charles' law, Boyle's law, and then intrapulmonary volume. I have all those on the side and just use it to describe it. There was just ways that looking at the word too would help me understand it. So intrapulmonary, so pulmonary, we know that's the lungs, so it's going to be with inside. Intra just meaning inside of. So it's going to be just the pressure of the alveoli. Alveoli are inside the lungs, so that's how I remembered it as well. If you've taken any like what's it called, medical terminology class, I know for some of the nursing students that you need to take that. I think I'm not sure if for dental as well, but I know for mine, for surgical processing, we have to take those classes since we go into the surgical tech side for those that advance within the career. So if you know your medical terminology, just reading these out and breaking down the words into their meanings will help you a lot in figuring out the definitions. Intrapleural, so you know the pleural cavity, so we're going to know that's like, okay, it's in between, or the pressure inside of the pleural cavity, stuff like that. And then same with parietal pressure, the pressure within the gas and stuff like that. Atmosphere, we're going to know it's like, okay, outside in the atmosphere, that's going to be the pressure within the air or outside of our lung, because atmospheric or air is outside of our lungs. And then Charles' law, the way I usually remember this one was like imagining Charlie Brown in a hot air balloon, because Charlie Brown and then hot air balloons float up. So that way it helped me remember it's like, okay, hot air balloons float up into the air because of that hot air within inside of them. So when gas is heated, that's going to expand it. So whenever like the air inside of a hot air balloon is heated up with that torch, I don't know the technical name for that, is heated up, it's inflating that hot air balloon to expand it. So just like our lungs are expanding when we breathe in that air, and as you know, as we breathe in air, we're like warming it up. So that helped me remember, it's like, okay, Charles' law is just going to be the inflation of the lungs are going to be aided by the air that is being warmed by our nostrils and entering into the lungs. And then Boyle's law is going to be the pressure from high concentration to low concentration. I don't unfortunately have like an easy little memory trick for this one. I just remember how multiple areas within this unit, how we talk about from high pressure to low pressure or stuff like that, or high concentration to low concentration. And then intrapulmonary volume, again, intra, in between the lungs, so the volume of air in the lungs, stuff like that. That's, again, breaking down of the words is like very helpful. This image as well right here just shows you like the intrapulmonary pressure, the interpleural pressure right there, the expansion of the lungs and stuff like that, and it color codes it with the arrows. So it's like it's very nice little visual aid to see, at least in my opinion. Okay, and another study tool created was inhalation and exhalation, just breaking down what went into each one. So the muscles that were involved in each, then along with the intrapulmonary pressure, so the pressure of the alveoli or the pressure of air within the alveoli, and then intrapleural pressure, just knowing the basics of each one and breaking it down into a little table chart. From there, I moved and made it into another visual aid, or at least looked for a visual aid. A lot of times people I know like to keep it right here, how it looks within this table format, because they like it a little better and neater. Some people just seeing it with like these bullet points on the side and then like the picture on this end was very helpful for them. I know for me it was just like having it as a flashcard like this, and then this as a visual cue for me to be able to see if I can list down all of this. So just looking at for the muscles for inhalation when we're breathing in, even if you're doing like the exercise yourself. So just like I found myself when I was taking the test a lot of the times to just like breathing in, and then breathing out, and just noticing in my body, okay, what's moving, what muscles are being activated while I breathe. You can think of back of this too a little bit on 201, since I know we talked a lot about the muscles in that and the skeletal structure within that unit. But at least for inhalation, you can feel like your diaphragm contracting downwards, and you can also feel your external intercostals, like your rib cage, elevating or during that contraction. Along with, like, if you're going deep, like if you take like a deep breath, you're gonna feel like a tightening on your neck. So that's going to be your sternocleidomastoid and your scalenes. I know when I exercise, sometimes I feel that being pressured very tightly if I'm doing some ab workout wrong. So you can just feel that muscle within your neck. That's usually the one we're like thinking about, like if we're forcing it, like taking in that deep breath by force. And then intrapulmonary pressure is going to be decreasing, so just think of pressure inside of the alveolar is going to be less than the atmospheric pressure outside, because again we're going to move from the area of high concentration to the area of low concentration. And then the intrapleural pressure, so that space between, like this space right here, is going to decrease because the lungs are going to expand into that pleural cavity. So again, this helps as well, seeing that visual aid of here's my lungs, here's my pleural cavity and stuff like that. And then for exhalation, we're going, again, if you feel like, if you take a breath out, you're going to feel that diaphragm relaxing and the internal intercostals relaxing as well. And then the alveoli are obviously going to spring back into their little shape, their original shape. And then if we're forcing it, that's when you are going to see the internal intercostals like depress the ribs, like bringing the ribs down, like us forcing that muscle down. And then also the abdominal muscles are going to, like you can feel it in your abdomen, are going to push the diaphragm upward by force. That's if we're like physically trying to take that deep breath out. And then again, that pressure is going to, inside the alveoli, is going to be greater. That intrapulmonary pressure is going to be greater because, again, from high concentration to low concentration, there's a lot of air in our lungs now. So where is that air going to move? Oh, to the outside where there's less, and stuff like that. And again, the intrapleural pressure is going to increase because now our pleural cavity right here is not going to have the lungs in its space. So it's just, again, breaking it down here into little easy table formats to follow, and paying attention to the muscles, and then also adding a little visual aid is helpful right here to see it. Because if I had shown you just this picture, you're like, oh, what is the intrapulmonary pressure again? Like, I don't know, where's my pleural cavity? Stuff like that. So just seeing a little picture right here helps. This one at least helped with like the arrow expansions to explain it, but yeah. And then again, I did similar one for exhalation, and that just helped me break down my notes. Similarly with the transportation of gases, I just broke that down into the table. Okay, I want to figure out, like, okay, how is oxygen transported? We know it commonly from when we were studying the blood, the hemoglobin, that it's bound to, like, oxygen will bind to red blood cells. So that's how the majority form of it is transported. Like a small percentage we're going to see within our blood plasma. That's how oxygen is transported. But carbon dioxide is a different way. You have the dissolved form as well, that's just going to be within the plasma, and then the bound form, because we all know that some of it's bound to hemoglobin within the red blood cells when we started the hematology, and then the modified chemical form. The modified chemical form was the one that I struggled with a little bit, just because like I couldn't get my head around the formula that Dr. K was showing on the screen, so I had to go look for some videos on it. And then like some other vocabs that I wanted to also like remember was like oxyhemoglobin, deoxyhemoglobin. So that's like two form of hemoglobin. Oxyhemoglobin is going to be the one where like hemoglobin is bound to it, and then deoxyhemoglobin is going to be oxygen has been unloaded for the hemoglobin and is going to the oxygen is not like bound to it, as it just has unbound to it. So like keeping a note of those vocabs and stuff like that. But this is you may have seen this within your notes. This is that modified chemical form and the way in which carbon dioxide will be transported and stuff like that. I had to look like online for this picture. I think, yeah, right here's like the full image right here. Gas exchange at the respiratory tissue and gas exchange at the lungs. So it's going to be a different way, because here we are unloading oxygen, but while we are loading carbon dioxide and making it into like the modified chemical form in which it will be transported to. And then here we are loading oxygen and unloading that carbon dioxide. So within this image right here, number 1 is going to be that dissolved CO2, that small percentage of CO2 that's going to be within the blood plasma. And then number 2 over here is going to be bound hemoglobin in the form of carboamino hemoglobin. That's that CbCO2 you see right here. So that's that bound form, but we have that modified chemical form as well that you see right here, where it's this like hot mess of like chemical signs that you see right here on top of as well from that formula. But I swear it's not that scary. I'll share with you guys too the video that I used to like help me understand it. I think it was like 5-minute breakdowns or something, or bite-sized med terms. I can't remember like off the top of my head. But again, here we have that modified chemical form. So it's like, okay, here we're starting off with that CO2. It's going to mix with sorry, I was pointing at the wrong area. So here we have carbon dioxide. It's going to mix with water, H2O. We know this guy. We've seen this guy a lot of the times since we were in middle school. We know H2O. And then there's going to be this enzyme within the red blood cells called carbonic anhydrases, and that's what's going to cause it to become carbonic acid. That's H2CO3, and then that carbonic acid was going to dissociate, and it's going to become here this hydrogen ion, and also bicarbonate. Bicarbonate is going to be exchanged for chloride, for this chloride ion. So the chloride ion, the bicarbonate is what's going to be carried in the plasma, the bicarbonate is what's going to be within the plasma and carried that way as that form of carrier for carbon dioxide. And then that hydrogen ion is going to bind to the hemoglobin right here and form that deoxyhemoglobin, so that unloading of oxygen into the tissue like that. Again, just this picture, take a screenshot of it honestly, and it will help you just use this to like walk yourself through it. Again, I live by the tale of like printing something out and sticking it into like a little paper protector and scribbling all over that. I am a very visual learner. I writing constantly just to get that muscle memory inside of myself. But like literally just walking yourself through of what exactly this image means helps you break it down a lot. Similarly, you can see right here is when I talked about how oxygen loads onto the red blood cell and how carbon dioxide is going to unload. Basically, we're bringing back that chloride ion and exchanging it out and stuff like that. But I highly recommend building this little study tool right here. I'll also link the video that helped me understand this. I believe it was this video right here, and then also this video as well. I'll link those within the once I have this video up for you guys, and link it up that you guys can go back and study and review. And then this is something else that I struggled with as a student, so I had to like take some notes in to get it to like stick into my little brain. You're gonna see this chart right here within your notes, talking about the oxyhemoglobin dissociation curve, how we have that left shift and that right shift. I believe the other videos that I showed you guys will have a segment that they talk about this, but if not, I believe I have these guys linked right here just as part of my notes to share with you guys as well. So I'll share the videos that I have, and hopefully they're helpful to you guys. So when we see that right shift, it's just going to be that hemoglobin has a decreased affinity for oxygen, so that's the deoxyhemoglobin. It's going to result in like that lower pH. And then increased affinity for it to bind to CO2 to that hemoglobin, and then hemoglobin will release more oxygen to active tissue based on that metabolic need. So you're just going to see like if we're running or doing any form of exercise that's going to require our tissue to be used, we're going to be unloading more of that. And then that left shift hemoglobin is just going to have an increased affinity for oxygen, so that oxyhemoglobin, so it's going to want to bind more to that oxygen instead of unloading it. So you're just going to have like a higher pH to it, and then it's going to have that decreased affinity for binding to CO2, to that hemoglobin. Highly recommend also reviewing your hematology slides for discussing like of where that oxygen molecule will move, as well as like reviewing the alveolar cell, because you will want to know like through which wall of these the molecules will be moving through. Is it either going to just be through the is it going to be part of the respiratory membrane, or is it just going to be passing through the alveoli wall, stuff like that. So just like knowing and understanding the alveolar cells. And then we've seen baroreceptors before, but these are chemoreceptors. I know I accidentally, when taking this test due to stress, I was getting confused between baroreceptors and chemoreceptors, and I know some students as well will get confused between the two of those. So it's just a regulation of our breathing and stuff like that. It's just going to be the monitoring the pH, or that partial pressure of carbon dioxide and the partial pressure of oxygen. Just monitoring our blood and like telling us like, oh, we need to actually load on more oxygen or breathe a little bit more. And they're just going to respond to the change in the partial pressure to carbon dioxide, and it's going to just monitor the chemical properties of blood entering the brain. That's why you see it right here on the carotid bodies and then the aortic arteries and stuff like that. Something else that helped me was just finding charts like this one right here that break down the conducting zone and the transition zone. Just to figure out like, okay, conducting zone is going to like carry that air into like the transition of the respiratory zone, where that's where that gas exchange is going to occur and stuff like that. There's another one I had right here. Yeah, these other two right here were also very helpful to me, just knowing like the respiratory and stuff like that. Yeah, just remembering that the where is it? This is not the correct one. Hold up. But just remember also the conducting zone is going to be airflow, no gas exchange. I know this sometimes confuses students. And then respiratory zone is going to be where the gas exchange is going to occur. So you can either divide it right here into the conducting zone or respiratory zone when dividing the respiratory system, or you can also divide it into the upper respiratory tract and the lower respiratory tract. I highly recommend looking more into like the conducting and respiratory zone, just because that's going to help you understand your histology a little better, and also explain the movement of oxygen in through the body and stuff like that. If you have any questions or stuff like that, or just want a one-on-one session to help you study for your exams, I know we're coming toward the end of the semester. I literally can't believe we moved this fast. At least it felt fast to me. I'm pretty sure it felt fast to you guys. I know I only have a few more semesters from actually I think I only have a month or so left of my clinical training for the hospital right now, so it's like it's going pretty crazy. It feels a little hectic right now, and I'm sure some of you guys feel hectic as well doing your prereqs for this. But trust me, I'll say this, a lot of the stuff that what you are learning here and now is going to make a difference within your career paths for the medical field. A lot of the information that I took, and if I did not know, like if I did not have this foundation when it came into going into surgery, I would be so lost and confused. A lot of the stuff that we go over is important for your guys' medical degrees. Even though it seems tedious now, it's important to maintain this information throughout your whole career. That's why if you have literally any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to Dr. K or to me. Honestly, CC us both in messages. That's the best option for you guys. Because if one of us doesn't respond, then the other one will, or it's better, sometimes the question is better asked to Dr. Curley, since she is the main professor, she is the professor for this course, as I am just the SSS. I'm just a student success specialist. I'm just here as an aid to you, the student aid. Well, Dr. Curley is the professor and can give you a deeper, more like academic understanding. My side of the role is more to help you and organize this information into a study tool that is helpful to you. But yeah, please do not hesitate to reach out to Dr. Curley and I. We want you guys to succeed. Again, this information is going to be useful throughout your whole medical career. So it's important that you understand it now while you can, and instead of like later on in the future when you're in the field and you don't know what's going on. Trust, like I'm so glad I paid attention and asked Dr. Curley to assist me for a lot of this stuff, because I feel I would have been more confused within my degree path without it.